Boom. All right. Welcome, everybody. This is Soul Speaks 5D number 51, which is a 6, which is a good sign. We've got a new friend in the house, Sandra. Welcome to the show, Sandra McKellis.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
What does that say? Embodiment of the soul.
Embodiment of the soul.com.
Yeah. So I don't know, how did we connect? I don't even, there's so much has been going on the last few weeks, and then, but I remember crossing messages or emails or something. I can't remember. Can you recall?
Well, I think probably about a year and a half ago, I actually interviewed you and your lovely wife, Morgan. And then I've always followed you. And I was just told Spirit would put us together on another show when it was time. And I think I joined one of your groups, and then I was asked. And then I think the last couple months I've been in no rush to come on. I just told Spirit when the time is right, the date is right, we'll do it. And fast forward, here we are.
Yeah. So, and speaking of, you're asking me, how are you doing? Speaking of that, what's your ride been like? What's it been like for you? A lot of people are talking about March, April, and May, and how it's just been massive clearing, I guess, expansion, codes, embodiment, just kind of a free for all. But it's, I don't know, it's been interesting to hear people's experiences. Has it been just smooth as butter for you?
Oh, just, no seatbelt needed.
Right.
Well, first I have to say that the reason why so much of this is happening is not because everything's just brand new. It's because you've had divine beings removing the invisible obstacle courses that has kept us in that regurgitated cycle, right? And so that's been coming on for a number of years now. And so honestly, for me, I live by the energy. I have since I was a kid. I was kind of born into paying attention to things, even when I couldn't explain it. I always go by how my physical body feels in things. So I can't say that the last few months have been completely different than any other month. It's just, it has been a little different, and it can come in the same day. Like, for example, today here in the DC area, it was kind of that, under the clouds of rain and not sure what's happening with the barometer, to all of a sudden, boom, lights on, like you had a caffeine injection ready to go. So for me, it's just a natural ebb and flow. And the more I tune into the me, myself, and I,
Right.
the more I kind of know when I need a seatbelt, when I just need to stay still, when I need to exit stage right or left, or just be present in the moment.
I've never heard anyone say this in regard to their childhood. There's a lot of people in the last year and a half, I'd say, that are talking about how the body's becoming a voice, I guess, or a louder voice, or consciousness, or their embodiment into the, the spirit flesh, or something's happening where the, people are starting to pay attention to their body, and not just, do I need to eat this, but just like you're talking about. So what you're saying is, from a young age, you were in touch, like you were the me, myself, and I think a lot of people could relate to that. I could relate to that, but I never really thought about it in terms of what my body was telling me. But you were already connected in that manner, it sounds like.
Yeah, but I didn't have control over my body, being one of 5 siblings. I kind of had to follow suit and do what I was told. So a lot of that got overridden. And but for the most part, I've always been really in tune with, there was more of me than just my little tiny pixie cut hairdo self when I was a kid. And so I never knew really where I fit in. I always got a lot of messages, connection to plants, to pets, to people. I was always very curious about people and reading their energies, which helped to filter energy through me to have an understanding of where I was, because as a kid, you're not fully incorporated in your physical body yet. You don't get fully, you're just running around on that day-to-day moment in your heart center self. So you're not caught up in the mental part of it. So for me, I just, I always knew I was different, but I had to fake it till I make it. I had to kind of find my way to lock in and click with the family dynamics of it all. And I know many of the examples, Todd, would come from, my mom was a big Bible reader. So she loved to gather us in the living room to read the Bible. And I would always hear, I didn't say that. That didn't happen. That's not even their names. Now, when you hear that as a kid and you ask questions about it and you're squelched immediately because it's not that they don't want to answer the question. They don't know the answers to the questions, and they're taught never to talk back or question the so-called word, But, I grew up in a middle-class neighborhood where, we had mostly white, some black. We didn't have a lot of influx of people from different countries. So I didn't even know any other names but basic names. But I knew biblically, this all came from another country. So how are their names just like mine? So as I got older, a lot of that kind of came to me. I also heard messages as a early teenager about pesticides. No, it was preservatives. Stay away from preservatives. And I didn't grow up on fast food or frozen foods like we have now. We didn't have a lot of that in the 60s. We didn't have a lot. You made your own food, right? So there's a lot of things I can't really explain. And a lot of things I've had to coast through for a few decades, just trying to figure out me. But I've been told very clearly to use my human as the experience, because that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to see, sense, smell, touch, really get to know my physical sensories. But I also knew how highly empathic I was, and that was my number one learning tool.
Yeah. So you went through a process where you were able to separate other people's feelings from your own. And then so you used it as a tool. Where did it go from there? How do you use it today?
It's just like my breath. I make no decision without tuning into the me. And we're so well blended right now. We just walk as one, my higher self, my guide team, the fragments of myself that's so-called everywhere else. And I consistently look for different practitioners that I know we can help each other get to the next level,
Right.
So I always have this curiosity and this inquisitiveness to want to know more about me by being in the body that I have, not trying to escape it through other vices and meditations. I mean, there's people that are just not balanced. They have to go into hours of meditation to retrieve this. They have to go into this particular diet in order to feel that. They need to use psilocybins or CBD or all these other things to get to where they are. And spirits told me all along, you're going to have to learn it on your own. I'm like, damn it. I wanted to quit. Oh, trust me, I tried a few times. I was like, damn, I wanted to quit trip so I could bring it back into my human. And then at least I knew what I was striving towards, right? But I didn't get that.
Now, do you, would you say that, I know you said that you exchange with other energy practitioners, but it sounds like you really, your whole life, you're self-sourcing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what we're really supposed to be learning, that we're one in union, with our divine self. We've just had so much of the obstacle courses and the separations through. And you could go into this deep whole thing about, the elite and this and that and all that causing it. Sure, that absolutely has effects on it. But if you understand it just a little bit, then how do you take responsibility to separate yourself from it? And you have to do that by getting to know yourself a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And disconnecting in your own way. So my searching has been through a lot of my own kinesthetic ups and downs, big time. Understanding the kinesthetic is the learning through feeling, through touch,
Right.
through the imprint. I I never knew anything about that until I went into massage school in my 30s and realized that when I touched, so much information would come through. And then what do I do with it with my limited vocabulary?
Uh-huh.
And so I could understand energy from beyond the words, that you could put it into this little teeny
Right.
compass of something. It's sort of like everyone today wants to describe how they feel, and no one understands feelings because there's no words that could put it into how someone else is going to actually translate truly how you feel about something. So kinesthetically, we're here to empathically learn more about ourselves, but we're learned to sort of squelch the empathic kinesthetic side of learning at a young age. And more we're getting further and further from that by dumping our kids into preschool and babysitters and so on, long before the imagination has really even had an opportunity to actually develop.
Mm.
Because to me, your imagination is your God self.
Mm-hmm.
It's where
Yeah.
you create
Exactly
the power
right.
within. And it's taken away at early ages. I don't want to use the words stolen or deliberate, because then you get caught up in that righteous anger of, well, who did this crap to me? And
Mhm.
you get, and those are all distractions of like, okay, this is what it is. I don't quite know how everything happened to the moment where I got here, but I'm here.
Right.
Now what do I do
Right.
to reinvent myself
Yeah.
and work on all of those energetics through my physical sensories? And then you step into your God sensories.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to tell myself, in a given situation, it doesn't matter if it's a circumstance or a consequence. At that point, like you said, the only thing that matters is you're here now. And, where you at and where you're going. Because how you got there, you're there anyway.
Well,
Uh,
it's like coming across a car accident. You don't stop and go, now hold on a second before we approach this car. Let's see how this all occurred and
right.
who did what lights and what stop signs, and
Right.
and then we'll get to saving those lives. No, the first thing you do is you get in and you work on saving the life, getting people to safety,
Right.
right? The rest of it gets figured out only because we always have to point blame at how it
Right.
occurred. So somebody's got to pay the price somewhere. But we're at the point now where everybody just needs to align their column of light and get their act together and quit worrying about what they're listening to everywhere else and how everybody else is doing it, and get into the own cobwebs and corners of your own physicality, your mind, your storage units, etc.
You mentioned that you do exchanges with other energy practitioners because you have this curiosity and you want to find out more and more about yourself. I would imagine you've been exposed to a lot of different modalities.
I have. And when I became a massage therapist, I was self-taught in the room about energy work. I was totally self-taught. And the people that would come to me, whether they got a massage or they got a mix of the energy work, I never announced what I was doing. This is 90, 95. No one knew of energy. No one knew of Reiki. No one really paid attention to any of that, at least in the circles that I was in, although I was connected to it. And so I learned to work with those kinds of things. And then I found when I was allowed to actually tell somebody a little bit about what I was experiencing in their session, then they would become an energy patient, an energy client within my practice. And the other thing that would come up is I began to learn okay, I got to name this because people don't know what it is, right? Okay, let me go take a Reiki class. And then you tell people, okay, well, it's just Reiki. Well, there's so many different kinds of Reiki, and it's just symbols that are activated with energy is what it is. People were like, I don't know what that is either. So I just stopped telling people what I searched for, and to put it into words for them so they had satisfaction of, oh, I had this in this particular session, not just a massage. But yeah, I've had a lot. I started with diving into past life regression. I had a few friends that were doing the Barbara Brennan School, and one of the criteria of being enlisted in that is that you must be under the care of a psychologist and a psychiatrist. So you dug into your own crapola while you're learning energy. And so I was like, oh, let me go get a past life regression session. And things opened up Pandora's box and doors and windows and portals to myself that I was like, holy wow, this isn't just me and my physical. There's so much more to how many lifetimes I've been. This is why I feel this way.
Right.
This is why I came in and I'm doing this. This is why this is happening. So it helped me concentrate more on who I am as the physical Sandra in this lifetime.
Yeah.
But I do pick and choose who I work with. I ask spirit first, is this someone I'm supposed to have a session with? And then how much is it? And they always tell me, don't worry, if you pay that money out, it'll come back to you in different ways. I'm like, okay. So I never question, even if it's my last dime.
Wow. How many sessions do you think you've participated in like that, where you're not the practitioner, but the client?
Oh, gosh. A few dozen.
Yeah.
Few dozen in probably at least 3 full decades.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Before that, I was very into secretly going down the street and getting a tarot card reading from somebody I trusted.
Well, that's a modality.
That was in my 20s.
That's a modality a month.
Yes.
That's a pretty strong proposition. Do you
Yeah,
have
but-
like favorite, as a client, like one that you came across where you work on yourself, like a favorite modality? And then do you have, and what modalities do you typically use when you're giving a session?
When I'm giving one, I'm giving one, I have, different certificates from different things, but everything gets collaged together.
Yeah.
And everything is custom blended, and spirit speaks through me at every single session. And so each one can be very different, and what it brings out of them can be very different. I'm just not into hanging shingles on the wall and proclaiming I'm this or I'm that. I actually would like to toss all that branding out the freaking window.
Right.
But as far as, sessions that I've received, a lot of them I'm not at all impressed, because it's stuff I already know. I'm thinking I'm going in to go, okay, this one's going to be the big one, and it's fireworks and, igniting me to the next level. And then I'm like, oh, okay, that was great. Next.
Well, at least you're open to finding out. I mean, it's, you know what I mean? I mean, you're not, I don't want to say stagnating, but limiting yourself, I guess, is what I'd say.
Well, I think when we get into spaces, it becomes painful for people to want to get outside of their box. They don't know, or they're going to feel like other people are going to poke fingers and point fingers at them. I came in with no concern about that. I put up with that pretty much all my life, of knowing that. So for a lot of years, and even now, I go through phases where I'm very quiet. They're just, I'm told just not to chime in, not to speak about things. And there's topics that spirits, like the financial chapters, don't comment on it, because most of that crap isn't coming true. Don't get into the religious sector, because you're going to stir soup of energetics, because people are hanging on to programs that don't belong to them, that are false. They tell me, don't get into politics. It is what it is. So I don't, there's certain things that they'll just go totally blank in the brain. I'm like, no comment. Not saying anything. I may hear something, like in the last couple of years, when you've heard people talk about Jasar, and I'd be like, and I'd hear, it's not happening. That's not, don't.
Yeah, that one really makes me giggle, because the government is telling them that's going to happen. You know what I mean? It's like everybody's always talking about, hey, you can't trust the government. And they're like, but Nasara is going to happen because the government, it's in legislation. It was passed in 1994. I'm like, okay, yeah.
It all takes people away from doing their inner work.
Yeah,
it's all a distraction.
It's people talk about the good and evil and everything, but really, I mean, it's a grand design. These are these are the things that move us the right direction, you could say. They give us the contrast. Yeah, there's a lot of distortion here, but people use the word war spiritual war, but really, uh, it's just who you're going to give your consciousness to, or yourself, or the things that you're mentioning. But
Well, that and who are you walking around hiding it from because you're afraid they've got a vacuum going to suck up your consciousness?
good point. That's a good point. And especially given the spirit of this year, where it's been like value, self-value, self-worth. I mean, people starting to come out, a lot of ladies starting to come out that have been quiet or been in the background. Do you see a difference? Do you know a lot of women like you, or people like you, over the years, or do you know a lot more now than before? I mean, are you seeing kind of the collective wave in that manner?
I'm seeing a wave through the masculine and the feminine. Um, uh, I can't say that I have a cluster of them that I hang out with or speak to regularly. I find a lot of this is a very solo trip.
Yeah, yeah,
And it can be very isolating and lonely because you're trying to figure out the vibrations within yourself and where your place is. And when you are doing that, and then you're realizing that the Earth's vibrations and the atmospheres and environments beyond that are changing so much, you're just trying to find your own fulcrum. You're not trying to balance on one side or the other. You're trying to be right there on the fulcrum, like, because you're not sure how far to go out each way and still stay balanced without, weeble wobble and fall over. And of course, that's all an experience, but there are some things you can prevent yourself from having not so
yeah.
great experiences if you're paying attention.
Ease and grace.
Yeah, I
Ease
use
and
those
grace.
words all the time,
Um,
all the time.
but are you seeing like a difference in your clients? Like, or any evidence like more people waking up? I mean,
I do.
and
But I also see a lot of people still in that ego. I want it this way and I want to have it that way. And I don't
right,
understand it any other way
right,
but how I've directly asked the question.
yeah,
So there still isn't enough people asking the question and allowing it to surface from many different ways that you're getting your answer, because everybody has to get their own visceral aha. You can tell it to them, they can experience some of it, but until they get that gut wrenching change, they're not going to make the change within themselves. They're going to hold on to the old programming, the old paradigm, because it's all they know. And innately, we're in survival, right? We innately want to survive. So we want to hang on to our elements, our water, the roof over our head, the food, and all that. But we also want to hang on to the only programming we think we know. And many people are still not able to courageously open the window and say, you know what, I know I'm safe. I'm opening this window up and I'm letting whatever come through, because whatever monsters may enter, they're all me.
right,
They're all me. And
right.
I can face them because it's going to teach me lessons. It's not going to hurt me in ways that I can't come out of it. Just
True,
like releasing parasites, right?
true.
They're
Yeah.
on all of our foods, our air, our drink, our water. So I do see more clients that are opening up to their experiences with ETs or galactic beings, good, bad, and indifferent. I've seen people come in with memories of realizing they've made agreements that don't work for them now. And I have to be very patient through the sessions and only say what is being guided to me to say, because it's a decision they have to make on whether they're going to break that bond, that cord, that permission slip to be a guinea pig or an experimental whatever to that, maybe that group.
Man, that's some deep stuff right there. You
Well,
just said
here's the thing about me, I've learned through energy of watching people. I mean, literally, even as a kid growing up, I'd stare. I'd like to stare. I like to watch the movement of people's eyes, and I can understand their energy and what's happening. I can tell if someone's lying or all this other stuff. And then I'll get people like, oh, you're so curious. And other people go, that's freaking annoying. You just get deep. You get deep quick. And that's only sometimes. For the most part, I'm
Oh,
just
I
kind
totally
of
dig it.
enjoying it. You
I
know, I'm just
totally
sort of
dig it.
like, I'm not here to poke you deep. You can go
Right.
as deep as you want. Whether you're a client or we're just sitting here having tea or tatting Todd, tatting Todd, like we're talking now.
Todding Todd.
Yeah.
Wow, this is cool. Yeah, I like to go deep. Totally. And really, I mean, to me, which has been great since we moved to the new platform, nothing like jumping off a cliff. But
Sometimes you just got to do it. I remember once being deep in another lifetime, getting an experience. And while it was happening, I knew that I was on top of a mountain. And I walked away from this guide who was showing me something, and I was at the edge of the cliff. And I said, I always hear if you jump off, you'll never wake up. And I said, let's just jump off and see. And in that dream state, I jumped off and I woke up way before I hit anything.
I'll be darned. That's pretty cool. I do recall jumping off in dreams. And it's a scary thing.
It is, but at the same time, you come back with a visceral strength that you didn't know you had. Because these dream states are just you in other dimensions, other places, working through with whatever beings are being shown to help you learn that lesson. Even though it may feel like a nightmare or something bizarre, it's just memories of the me, myself, and I, and the fragments of yourself that your guide team is trying to see, okay, how do we get this aha in here? How do we get this experience in here? And then some of the stuff is just let it go. If it's meant to come around in a different way, it'll present in a different way.
Do you get a lot of your information and experience in dream state, or is it just a constant kind of thing, pops in, pops out? Oh, it's always a part. Yeah, constant.
It's constant. I was one of those people in the 90s that just couldn't sit still to meditate. I would try to get into these positions that everyone told you had to sit in, and you had to stay there because this is how you had to work the energy through your spine. And I couldn't do it. And so I used to say, well, what if I take 5 minutes in this position? And because the whole thing was about get the body comfortable. So why am I putting it uncomfortable and then asking it to go down into these theta and below states? Right? And so Spirit used to always say to me, just hang on to yourself, Sandy, just hang on to yourself, because one day you're going to teach this in the way you've learned. And that is, you don't have to go in those ways to understand that you are communicating with the God within you.
Right. If
you want to use those words, I always call it divine creator of the universe within you, your galactic angelic spark of who you are. So we walk together simultaneously.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, for me, I don't know, I can do it many different ways, but walking is real good for me. It can get a lot, brought in and cataloged and filed away, in a good walk. I don't know. It's always just been a good way for me to connect. The solitude, I think, is huge. The alone time, I think the alone time just has a natural propensity, for being in connection with that voice within too, I think. And I think a lot of people have found that out since COVID, when there was a lot of lockdown and all that stuff, and having to be with yourself and reflect on things. I think that was a huge energetic gift, as blessings are burdens and burdens are blessings, for the collective. How do you feel about the collective, and I'm just talking the whole wide world, the idea of ascension, the importance or relevance or that it might have or might not have or maybe being taken too seriously. Again, something that could steal your consciousness, you know, because we're very, very multidimensional, and we'd have to put together something that's extremely complicated so we wouldn't figure it out and the game would be over. But what are your thoughts on that type of stuff? Are you more rooted in just your present experience and that those things around you, or do you get information on the collective, or do you have any kind of opinion on it?
Well, you know, I think when the word ascension started coming up and it became everyone's buzzword, it's really a distraction from the fact that you're evolving as a human spiritual being. And when you're taken to a place where this is coming, that's going to happen, you need to prepare for this, you are taking yourself out of learning about you. And, you know, you asked me about tools earlier, and, you know, I used to be a big proponent of astrology. And I worked with someone I trusted with for 15 years and readers that I worked, but we worked together until I knew that I was getting all the answers on my own and how much I already knew, and I didn't have to reach out on myself. So the modalities of which I reach out to now are very fewer and farther between. I do more work on myself as emptying out my little cubby holes that may have memories and stuff, and asks to be present while they're being shown to me. And I help clients with that, friends with that. I do a lot of things pro bono because my friends always ask me questions and stuff just flies out. And other times it's like, don't say a word. But Ascension, I think we're getting way caught up in what 5D is. And why would you go from 3 to 5? Where's 4? What's happening in 4? And, you know, I think one of the benefits that's come from it, it's allowed people to reach deeper into their own consciousness and bring up the stories in which they're being told, and sharing that, because that's a place to kind of bring awakened awareness to. There's more than just your physical body and what, you know, getting up in the morning to the time you go to bed routine is, that there's more to that with life. I think it's natural for all of us to evolve. I just think many of us are just getting caught up in this. This is so mystical. And some people are called, this is the first time the earth has ever done that. Well, maybe it is, but how are you on this ride when you're all over the place, taking in so much distorted information that there's no way you could even decipher it. So how does that help you be the best person you can be and be a witness? That's the key. Not enough people are really witnessing and feeling. You know, I had a bee land on me the other day at a friend's house, and there was a part of me that went, is this a real bee or is this a bot? And there was a part of me that was like, oh crap, don't sting me. And there's another part of me going, so what if it does sting me? It's only going to hurt for a little while. And then I was sort of like, well, wait a minute. I don't want to create this bee to sting me and then it lose its life because I couldn't control my heart rate or my responses to this bee simply landing on me. So if we're not becoming aware of the physical part of how much control and power we actually have within this vessel, we got no business flying out everywhere else trying to bring back information, because you got no room for it.
Yeah. This is a very thought-provoking. I'm digging it.
Well, I had no idea what we were going to talk about. I prepared nothing.
What's next? That's
I
how
just go with the flow. And
that's what we do.
yeah, I really truly go with, and that's how I know when spirit's working through me. Is we're one voice, one house, one body.
Spontaneity, the spontaneous aspect of it. You know, that's why I like. I do music with my friend, and I like it because it's all spontaneous. We just make it up. You know, he just starts making music, and then we just start singing and rapping or whatever, talking. Yeah, and I like to. Well, you know, often when I would get too serious, I would say to myself, how do you really know anything? For all I know, I could be worm dirt when this is over. Yeah, or I could be what I, you know, what I share, intel or whatever you want to call it, memory or knowing that so many people share. But the point is, whether it's one or the other, it doesn't really matter to me in this moment, in the sense of I'm here now. This is it. That's what I know. My consciousness goes other places and I'm aware and this and that. But for some reason, 90% of the time, or whatever that number is for a given person, I'm conscious here, just like this, and how do we know in regard to what we believe? And I think there's some truth to this. Obviously, we know this now with unconscious, you could say unconscious lifestyles and becoming aware and more conscious, knowing that our thoughts create our reality. I think the same would apply to like what you said. This is a revolving thing. And I'm pretty sure that being that we're energy, that wherever we leave off, we're going to pick right back up again. You know what I mean? Like, and some of that, I say just from information I got, just in my own regard with memories I've had. Oh, this showed up again in this lifetime, or, that type of thing. I don't imagine that you really concern yourself much with the mass distortion or distraction that the let's just say the globe puts out, the global elite or whatever you want to call it puts out, the big movie script that's getting really ridiculous. You probably don't even think about that stuff, do you?
I don't, and I haven't watched the news, really much of any kind of news, since my astrology days in the 90s, when I was warned not to, because it had such a destructive path to my being empathetic to everything, that carrying all of that was harmful.
Yeah.
And I learned that real quick. Yet I was raised, and even still through my 20s, my mom would say, while you're on the metro going downtown to work, you should read the newspaper so you're up on current affairs. So you have something to contribute to conversations, because sometimes you're very quiet, Sandy. And I'm like, doesn't mean I don't know stuff. I just don't need to know what's in the newspaper or what's on my screen there.
Yeah.
And 2017, I like what you just said about how do we even know? 2017, I was called to go back and retake some different energetic courses that I'd already taken. And I thought, let me find some different teachers. So I got drawn to one particular teacher, and was getting through halfway through the course. And on the way to her house, I'm driving through downtown Baltimore, and I'm like, I hear, can you forget everything you know? Drop all the programming of everything that's been told to you, every book, every verse, everything, drop it. And just, if you hear it again, listen to it with different ears, different perception. I said, I can do that. Literally, matter of fact, got to her house and we start talking, and she hears what I had to say. She's okay. Well, then how does that work? I said, I don't know. I can't carry any of that stuff with me anymore. I'm literally, I asked, they said it and it's already done. I know nothing. I'm going to start from total scratch and get reintroduced to everything. Even if it looks semi-familiar, I'm going to look at it with different sensories. Now, the next morning I couldn't find my keys, wherever I put my keys, but I found them. They were playing a joke on me. But every bit of information that's come back to me or anything else has all been new, and I can either pick it up, a portion of it, discard the rest of it, eliminate it, not carry it in any capacity whatsoever. So literally, if I had to go take what they want to call an IQ test or something, I don't know what grade I'd even get out of, because so much of what I've learned till now, it's irrelevant to where I am and where I'm going.
Yeah.
So I've had healers where I've been in their groups and they've got huge followings. We're like, Sandy, you need to get out of DC. It's going to get flooded, the whole East Coast. Why would you stay there and die? And so it had me question every bit of myself. Like, well, they're more of a guru than I am. What do they know that I don't know? So I call another healer. Hey, what are you getting over there in your state? Are you getting that you should run? No, I don't think so. And then, so what it did is it created doubt. within my own being of knowings but yet it brought to the forefront all these different pinpoints within that group that I was not supposed to be a part of anymore. And I
Right.
withdrew from that group completely. And so I don't believe for one freaking second, Todd, that I'm not here in this physical body, in this house, learning what I'm learning, to be taken out by everything everybody's talking about.
Right. Right.
Because then I don't trust, because I don't feel that scaredness. I don't feel that fear. And I'm right here in DC,
Yeah. You were
born
in it.
and raised. I'm
God.
within every droplet of everything that everyone wants to talk about is poison,
Mhm.
conspiracy, listening to. And are there times where I can be sitting still doing something and go, is my computer staring at me? Who is behind my computer looking at me? Is there some kind of wave in my room? No, I'm not afraid of all that. And if they are, let them have at it. I know
Right.
for a fact, in my trusting of who I am, anchoring my light, that there isn't a damn thing that can knock me off my teeter-totter
Right.
unless I allow it to happen. And even when the whole 2020 thing came up, I literally was knuckle rubbing together like a little kid, so excited because I had an excuse now to work on my site. So then I took every day to work on my site till I started seeing colors and orbs and shapes and beings and everything else. People in the sky, people that look like humans, don't look like humans, all over my room. They walk on me. I see different colors. I got that time to literally have the excuse to sit still and learn to develop my sight.
Wow. And how did you go about that? Is it like a
I
trance?
asked for it and I practiced it. I
Okay.
used to walk. I like you, love the tool of walking. It is a very meditative state for me, and I'm communing intentionally and not intentionally. I'm communing naturally with just
Right.
nature,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Nature knows what I need, and they take and balance what I'm struggling with. And it happens on a very unconscious level, but I love to allow my consciousness to come through, because then I get grateful for it, because it's an intentional exchange. I'm not leaving my shiat out for them to filter. I'm
Mhm.
communing with them and allowing the balance to happen between them and me.
Yeah.
And so I would go to different spots and I would learn to soften my eyes and accept what I was seeing until it would be in my face. And there was times where it would bring it to me like the Wizard of Oz, when the Good Witch would come out in that bubble and float across the sky and then just be right there. And with my naked eye, I'm seeing it and the movement in it. And then of course, that time during 2020, 21, everyone started coming out of the woodwork. Well, I have these messages and I have this thing and I have these warnings and I have this. So you start listening, go, what do they know? What do they know? And you're taking in these different informations to the point where I'd be like, well, maybe what I'm seeing isn't what I'm seeing. So sometimes I would push it away.
Mhm.
Then I'd have to balance myself. And then if it came back, and then I would tap into how I felt. So I would get these clusters of colors and different shapes that would come and they'd hang out and they'd follow me and they'd dissipate. And I would tap into how I felt about it.
Wow.
Your feeling is your biggest barometer. And I learned that as a child. Do not discount your feelings. We're raised to discount how we feel.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and then you brought up a good point earlier. It got me to thinking. So you were talking about you haven't really watched television since the 90s.
News.
Oh, the news. I'm sorry. And I don't really watch. If I watch anything, like I can't tell you the last time I watched a Netflix or a Prime Video. I've got both of those, but it's probably been over a year now. But I'm finding, even on the internet, what you were talking about, not wanting to carry all that with you, because it is a powerful energetic force. And as as you become more aware and you start to see the energy and feel the energy like you're talking about. So even when I look at Netflix, the grandson of Hitler's propagandists started it. I mean, they're all
Something you
connected.
think is a documentary.
Yeah. So my point is that in the next, I'll take it back to the Nazis. In the concentration camps, they would feed the guards meth because it desensitized, and then they would feed the prisoners fluoride, to dumb them down. Well, I look at it the same way. The more that you take in that doesn't, let's just say, doesn't have a truth vibration or isn't what it seems to be, whatever you want to call it, the more desensitized you will become. I mean, you see pictures of people or videos of people all the time. They do those little pranks on TikTok or whatever, and somebody will be beating on somebody else and people just walking by, or a kid standing on a street corner, a black kid standing on a street corner in New York City, 5 years old, and will anybody stop and help? Nobody even stops. There's just all the evidence of it. But my question is, whether it be for the masses or for, say, I came to see you and I said, hey, I got this question. There's a part of me that says, step away from everything that what some people might call 3D or the Matrix, and to take it all the way, like no driver's license, no nothing, like just get out of it all the way. And I know that's an energetic push. And I know a lot of what we're doing, you could just say it's never been done before. And I don't mean to compare us to anything or any past incarnation. I'm just saying we're figuring this shit out. You know what I mean? Like we all got to do our own thing. But do you feel like that, when people talk about the Matrix is crumbling, the institutions are crumbling, the truth is coming out, all that kind of stuff without getting sensational, is something that's occurring as within, without, as people are cleaning up their house, that it's going to start to reflect in our shared experience?
I do. And what I was bringing up earlier is we could sit here and do the blame game, and we've been victimized, and we've been caught in so many, webs, matrix, whatever you want to call it, and we fought free. Actually, we've come here to open up our consciousness that was even a possibility, and then how do I want to participate, and to take back your permission slips, and to cancel, alt, delete anything, and that's where the awakening happens within the individual, which then joins another vibration in the consciousness of the universe. So we are at this stage where, we were supposed to have, at least the way my guides have shown me, X amount of period of darkness, X amount of period of lightness, because there has to be a polarity, right? But the way the trickery was, the darkness tricked and kept things into the light. And then you have the other thing, well, if the divine creator is so almighty, why didn't he break us free of that, or she of that, so long ago? And it's really all about how much we've allowed ourselves to participate.
Right.
And so we have the choice of how much we're going to allow ourselves to take in all these different documentaries of what is truth and what is not truth. And, what you were talking about, like watching that documentary and all that stuff, we have to also understand, we have a subconscious that stores everything 24/7, like a surveillance camera, whether you remember it or not. And then we have the conscious. So when we read a book, or we watch a movie, or we listen to the news, or we've had a most recent conversation, that is what's going to be in the gerbil wheel. That's what's going to be in the hamster wheel, depending on what size rodent you want on that wheel, right? It's on there. So that's the kind of stuff you're going to constantly be recalling. So you're living in this space of constant recalling and regurgitating stuff that really doesn't matter now. Sometimes we have to go back into the subconscious and find out what nuggets of amazing information we've stored, release space for that, but also find the treasures of who we authentically are and understand that we can stop these wheels of cray-cray if we just have the courage to open up windows and try some different things that help spark your God source self.
And those types of things would be like, you know, I mean, I guess you could do it a lot of different ways. I
Well, there's so
know,
many tools out there. Many
Yeah.
people use the pendulum. They use
Yeah.
tarot cards. They use astrology. They use psychic readers. They use past life regression. They use hypnosis. They use, you know, all these different courses that people have got out. You know, there was one thing that did stick in my craw about 2021.
mhm,
And that's when everybody's home listening to all these videos. And that was the twin flame thing. And Spirit would say, the twin flame is within you.
mhm,
Twin flame is your higher self on the other side. You can call it the opposite of you. If you're a female, it's a male. If you're a male, you're a female. And they would show me all this stuff. But people were developing all these courses and bringing people in for $10, $20 to get into this twin flame meditation. And then they would take you to some place where they thought you got divided, whether it was back in Lemuria. And I'm like, what? So here's all these things that can create all these distractions, because you can look into all this stuff and you say, okay, now what? Then
mhm,
now what? What is that?
mhm.
Does that make me say the partnership I'm in now sucks because this person's saying my real true is way out there, and you have more luck with a needle in a haystack. So then you become disgruntled with the life that you have. And so instead of looking within yourself to say, let me see if I can dig into my surveillance camera and see what I don't remember. And let's see if I can bring that forward. Okay, well, that didn't, okay, let's let that go. Let's let that go, right? Let's bring forth the new things. And then if you understand that we're all connected one way or the other with similarities and unsimilarities that make us human, having the human experience, then hopefully we can open up to brighter, bigger possibilities that everything is love, and we've created the polarity of not. You could blame that on biblical people doing this, and that. And I do believe that's one of the reasons why the whole galactic beings are making themselves more known, because they've been called angels, and some of them are not angels. They're different dimensional beings, and they're all fragments of us.
Right, right. Do you have, so obviously you have collective intel like a lot of the guests over the years, particularly the women, you know, because I would ask them like, so you were getting this 20 years ago, like this time would come and all that. How do you feel about our potential? And when I speak of anything, I really speak in, I'm talking, I don't look further than the end of the year, you know. I believe our potential is infinite in any moment, just like our imagination is infinite in its bounds. I mean, that's really, you know, what you said earlier, I fully resonate with. But in terms of like I don't know if I want to say mass, but a regional or a group of, you know, let's just say whatever, 1 million people that are doing the work, have been doing the work, have been consciously embodying, realizing the things that you talk about, that we can't spend all of our time out there and over identify with that, and because that's just as much taking our consciousness as the trauma we haven't healed. But in terms of like seeing something sensational, miraculous, I don't know if that means people start walking on water, or light bodies start being shown, or people like yourself and our other guests that you know can see certain things, and it's part of their daily life, that it becomes more visible to more of us, or you know what I mean?
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on that? What do you think our potential is?
Our potential is very great if we could stop, drop, sit, connect with the breath, and really feel, see, and sense, and be a witness to what it is around you, because we each have different things that we've come in here to contribute to the building of this new house, so to speak, this new design of Earth, because old ways aren't working anymore. We're creating too much harm through what it is that has occurred up to now. And we see it with just pollutants and chemicals and so on. And we can either get caught up in that narrative and that story and have that perspective, or we can say, the buck stops with me.
Right.
And you can't be truly in your conscious mind when you're rotating and regurgitating previous days, or if you're projecting too far out.
Right.
And there's so many people that want to jump into this whole 5D thing, and who knows if you're going to be a physical being.
Right.
But maybe you're supposed to be here to be the physical being, because that's where you are right now. So why can't you just deal with the now? Why is everyone so busy wanting to jump out? You don't know what that brings for you. You may be missing so many important cues of your becoming and your learning about yourself, where your place is in the universe, wherever that may be, where your postage stamp is, where your footprint is, when you're too busy listening to a lot of the shenanigans. And you're not going to know what the shenanigans are until you actually tune into your own inner barometer, your own inner tuition, and open and broaden and hear things with a different sensory, not just with the ear that focuses it on the brain from outer things. You're also working on developing the inner self. And so we can go with all these different stories, but then what? What does it help you become? And how do you know what you're going to become? Because again, you're listening to all these programs and there isn't one avenue of how this is all going to unfold. And I also don't get, at least to this point, is there has to be a certain percentage that's on this side of the light fence in order for us to tip that scale. Okay, great. But what did you learn going over to that side? Because we're all here to bridge with each other and join the bridges together. So, and then choose what's working and what's not working. And that doesn't mean just for our physical self and our own domain of our home and our person, place, and thing and our family dynamics. This is, what are we creating out there that's bringing everything in here, and what's created in here that's bringing everything out there, which always goes to my thing of do no harm. Do no harm. So as you're cleaning yourself, learn to dissolve, give forgiveness and love to whatever it is that you're releasing that doesn't serve you, and let that, so that someone else doesn't get smacked in the head with it. Now they got to pick it up and learn it, because that's how we pick up so much of what's going on in the collective, because everyone's throwing shit out here. They're just throwing it right on out there. There's all these clouds of stuff.
Yeah.
But if you can look at it and hey, let me sweep and clean that off a little bit. So even when I go out and walk in nature, if I have an opportunity just to brush my hand against shrubs, trees, flowers, plants, I just douse them with so much love and appreciation for what it is that they do. Instead of just being an eye, something that might be a beauty to someone's eye, a garden or whatever. These gardens house elementals and all kinds of beings that are working on cleaning the planet and bringing in more of that love.
Yeah, that's the thing about walking to me, I think. Or well, that's
Yes.
not one thing, but I mean, because it's easy for me, because sometimes like if I'm getting overloaded, I'll just go out the door. And so, I might, knowing that I need to get to a silent space, and one of the ways is I just start walking, and, I might walk one house and go, wow, I just missed those 2 trees. In other words, don't forget, like you're saying, look, it's all there. Look, listen, feel, hear. But yeah, it's easy because I'm in an old neighborhood with a bunch of old trees in an urban area. And man, you can get so much information, so much energy. I would say a very close relationship with trees. And I have since I reawoke. But that's just one. I work with other energies, and we all do, but
Yeah.
the tree Akashic, the tree library, it's endless, it's endless.
Totally endless.
Yeah.
Totally endless. I know, like, even when I was working on my site and we had things closed down for that 1.5 years or whatever time frame that was. And I used to like talk to different trees and sit next to different trees. And then Spirit was like, pick one. I'm like, oh no, that's choosing favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, what program was that I was thinking? And so it said, just pick one and set your intention, because it's going to talk to every root of every tree,
That's
every
right.
shrub
That's right.
around the universe. And I went, okay. So wouldn't you know, the 2 trees that came out were right along the walking paths of like everybody. So I would have to go there, stand with my eyes closed and touch the tree. And sometimes I would try to position myself where I could hide behind the tree. So people didn't just see me, because I knew their thoughts were going to be disruptive. So I'd be like, oh man, they think I'm a weirdo. And then it was like, I don't really care. I got work to do. So it didn't faze me. And then one of those trees was taken down by that particular neighbor. And I literally, for the first time in my life, had mourned that tree being taken down. So I went to the one right next to it, and I still worked with the roots of the one that the upper part was taken down. So there's so much we can do without a lot of effort,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that can, energy frequencies, they're invisible through the air, and you're getting smacked with all different ones all the time. But you get to choose which ones you really want to connect with by paying attention. And you can choose what messages you want to put in those frequencies that are going to go around into the air other people are breathing. So you have the important job of choosing and having the power to make change through those choices and erase a lot of the harm that maybe some unconscious person isn't even aware of that they're creating.
Yeah. Good stuff. Really good stuff. Do you still have an active practice of self introspection and shadow hunting? Or is it just as it comes, you deal with it?
Definitely in the moment, what
Yeah.
presents itself. Sometimes I get up in the morning, I go, all righty, what you got to show me today? Sometimes I go to bed at night, and sometimes I will have some questions on my mind,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll say, okay, I'm going to put this out there. And I kind of like to remember what the answers are in the morning, if I could, please.
Yeah, I do
And
that.
sometimes I get up and it's a blank. Other times I get up and it could be a couple days go by and it's like, hello, I got it. So everything has its own timing, because I've worked with people where, my guides will show me, no, don't answer that, even though I know the answer. That's for them to fish for right now. They're not ready for that yet. Come about it this way. So it makes them think. So, in any of the work that I do for myself and for other people, it's always going to leave you with being curious within yourself, and also allowing recovery time from every time you go through these things, because you have to allow things to integrate.
How long
You
does
have to
that
allow
take?
them to
A few
integrate.
days?
It depends on what it is that you're working through.
Yeah.
Your body will tell you. Can you expedite it? Absolutely. Let's just say you're getting big downloads and stuff's happening, but oh boy, 3 days from now, I got to present here. I got to travel here. This is expected of me. I've got to produce this. Woo! I don't know. Can't cancel. So then I say, Spirit, what is it? You some essential oils? Okay. Oh, you want me to get into the uncomfortable bathtub? Great. Put a Epsom salt. What do you want there? Fine. I'll take an hour to do that. That's what you want. Oh, more walks in nature. Oh no, we want you to unplug from all of this. Take 20, 30 minutes 3 times a day. And we want you to do that. We want you to add a different mineral to your water. They will tell me what it is I need to do. And I never question it, because the confirmation comes through the channels of how I feel.
Mm-hmm. What about, and I know there are 8 billion people, so there's 8 billion different ways. There's probably 8 billion different earths.
There's a recipe book for everybody.
But in terms of like what you ingest, I mean, are you I'm sure you're a conscious eater. You mentioned minerals and water. Is there anything that you really advocate for yourself, you know, and for others?
Don't fight the feelings.
Yeah.
Allow them to come up. They are part of the emotional body that needs to be released through the nervous system and everything else. Don't stop, drop, sit, and hoard with your fear of releasing, and you'd rather die than process it, because you're not going to die. You're actually going to live in a whole different way if you allow it. I stopped reading years ago because every book that gets recommended to me and I order it, I get it, I can't even read it. It just doesn't even, it won't even process through my eyes anymore. I don't fight it. I don't fight the way I feel. And I ask, and trust me, I eat my junk. Sugar is definitely a nemesis I got to work with, right? Then I ask myself, why did I go into such a bad craving? What didn't I nourish before? That's if I want to go deep with myself. Other times I will crack open a box of hot tamales or something and eat them like candy. So I always ask myself what it is that I need, because every day is a different nutritional component that's required, because every day winds are changing. And every day I may have a different amount of time I got to be on electronics. Every day I may have a different person that's on my physical table. Every day I've got to intermingle in a different way and still be true to myself, because we who are in this, what do we want to say, healing thyself and healing others, take on a lot more than we should take on, because we become fixers of things, because some of us feel strong enough to be able to reach out there and do work in the different dimensions as well as here. And we're not realizing sometimes we've overextended ourselves. So we fix things for people that needed to fix them themselves. They need to tie their own shoes and learn different things. So every day we have different information that comes to us. And it's like, here's another example. During these last couple of years of change, I had so much time. I might be cooking vegetables or doing meat or whatever I'm doing. And let me listen to this while I'm in the kitchen. And it got to the point where I started saying, am I supposed to listen to this now? Because I could be listening and I go, I just zoned out and didn't hear the last 10 minutes of what that person said. And I go back and I rewind it. And then I do it again. And I go, what just happened? What? And so I started saying, oh, I'm not supposed to listen to that right now. Then I started tuning into, do I even start this? And if the answer was yes, then I tuned into, how does their voice sound to me? Is it nails on a chalkboard? Is it words of understanding? Is it resonating with me? Did this just get too deep and I don't have the time? And then it got to the point where I don't save anything. I don't put it in my little list to listen to later. Because I don't ever really get back to them, even if I set that intention to do it. So everything, you can't be in the now moment if you don't get and erase some of the subconscious that's creating the conscious. And then in your conscious, how far back are you going? Because that's your short-term memories, right? How conscious are you? Are you just allowing a rodent to be in the wheel of regurgitation? The gerbil, hamster wheel, bunny wheel, whatever you call it.
Same experiences over and over.
You're just in that rewind cycle. So how do you break free from that? You break free from that by put it in your calendar every day to say, I need to take a minute to connect with a few deep breaths. I need to take a minute to have water or something different, because if not, we mindlessly feed ourselves and we mindlessly do much of what we do because it's on a subconscious autopilot. And it's because of so much of the work that I've had to go through myself. For whatever reason, Todd, Spirit has said, Sandy, you're coming in to live through the hard knocks. You're going to experience it all. good, bad, ugly, indifferent, whatever it is, you're going to experience it and you're going to process it. And then you're going to share it with others so that perhaps they don't have to repeat the exact same thing because they don't need to. Or maybe they could repeat it in a different way with your assistance. But either way, the end result is getting answers that are more clear for you. Because we all came in with different sensories that are going to be stronger than others. Well, how come I don't hear the way they hear? Oh my God, I went through years of that. Well, how come I don't hear a voice in my head? I hear my own thoughts, which are the voices of the all of me.
Right.
And it's taken me a long time to accept that
Yeah.
I don't hear it like I hear you talking to me. Do I hear stuff? Yeah, I can hear things and it's dead silent and no one's playing music around me. It's 3 o'clock in the morning and I hear stuff. Yeah. Does it make sense? No. But it's letting me know my sight has always been my gift, but it's been more of my inner sight. I can close my eyes and get messages in the forms of movies. It's when we start asking for more and we're expecting it to be on our time frame that we've got ourselves all tied up in the instantaneous old programming of getting answers.
Mm.
So I hope that whatever it is that I said, because I don't remember half of what I say, it just comes through. I hope that I answered what you asked me.
I totally relate to you. I mean, I can, I'll get off the show and I'll talk to Morgan. How was that show? It was great. What y'all talk about? I don't know. But yeah, there's something to that because it actually, to me, the energy, the impact or the visibility of energy is just becoming so big. So, and it's multidimensional and it's, there's all these elements. So it's really more of an experience of feeling. So if somebody says to me, how was the show? It was great. That's how I feel. And really the last one's always better than the one before.
Yeah.
The last one's always the best one ever.
Yeah. And energy doesn't have to come through the next latest, greatest device.
No.
It's at your fingertips.
Yeah.
You can choose however you receive it and however you give it back.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about, well, I mean, it's I don't really follow it, but you notice a lot here the last 3 months, the solar flares and geomagnetic storms and all that kind of stuff. And then, paralleling that, or I guess directly related to that, people talking about the physical implications, the emotional impact, activations, downloads, different narratives saying that the energy is expanding, however that's happening. Do you feel that stuff? And
I do, but I never listen because I see the way I look at it is the equipment to read all those things has been around for a long time. Whoever decided to figure out how to do it and post it out, it sensationalizes a lot of things along with other things. Spirit tells me when stuff's happening because I feel it in my body. I can have something come across my body and I'm like, ooh, that hurt. That was uncomfortable. And then I may find out there was an explosion or, a tidal wave or, what do you call them when the mountain explodes? See, I can't even think.
volcano,
All those things. I may get that later. So I don't look at all that. Mercury is my ruling planet. And of course, being in the many decades of astrology that I was in, understanding how the planets affect my body and how my personality and so on and so forth. And then beginning to go, I can figure out a lot of this myself. I know when Mercury goes direct, I don't even have to ever have anybody tell me. I feel things in my body when planets do something different. And that is when you become more and more aware of your own barometer. That is when you're going to see time and space different. Did I eat today? What time is it? I have no idea. Did I already have that conversation? I feel like I had that conversation. When there's no way you had that conversation. It was like Friday, a week ago Friday, 18th, 19th of May. I'm seeing something about this physician that passed over and I'm like, I wonder why I hadn't seen him for a while. I really liked him. And in my mind, Tina Turner comes through and I see her leaving the planet. Think nothing of it.
Mhm.
5 days later, taking a break, walking outside to sit outside, something flashes up to my phone. Tina Turner dies. And I look at it and go, yeah, I already know that. Whatever. That's old news. Sat outside for 10 minutes and something went, what? What? And then I went and picked up my phone and said, when did she die? And then it was just announced 38 minutes ago. And then I'm like, well, I already knew that. So, okay, fine. So there's, once you get your inner barometer, your true northeast, southwest, and that's limiting, your directions, you're not going to know what's really happening.
Right.
Because nothing's happening to you. You're here to experience what everything that's going on, everything, and go into what feels uncomfortable because you're still going to be safe. I
Mhm.
don't say walk across the 5-lane highway with everyone going 90 and trust the fact you're going to get it over there, because the odds are you're not. But so why put yourself in that danger? But you can put yourself in places where you can uncover a lot of who you are by emptying out all the cobwebs, the bins, and just accepting yourself in the here and the now and the moment. And what are you really witnessing? What truly are you witnessing without all the incoming information? That's going to tell you a lot about you. Then you're going to find out you don't know crap about crap. You don't know anything except for through the experiences and the eyes and the programs that everyone else implanted over this period of time.
Yeah, I think there's a big difference between the way you use the word witness and observer. Witness, that's a powerful word too. That's a strong word, because witness is, I don't know, observer to me sounds almost clinical. Witness kind of exudes sacredness, or ceremony, or profound, some kind of profound experience or something to that effect. I like that word.
It's a very different experience. It's definitely one that's going to connect you closer to so unplug yourself from all the other crap, carry your plug, decide where you're going to plug it in and where you're going to have an energy exchange, have the value in that. But when you plug in to this whole different, I want to know me, you're going to see some of the same names for colors here, but in a whole different spectrum.
Yeah.
So what you may see is, and this is how I describe it, what you may see is the purple that we know here as purple, and then what you will see in the mist of a different dimensional type purple. It's still purple, but it has a whole different array of colors, just like it does on the physical color wheel here, but it's imprinted differently because you're witnessing that color differently. And you can call it mystical, you can call it whatever word you want. I suggest you take a lot of words out of it and just enjoy the experience.
Yeah, that's like I was talking about with the walk. That would be a better way to explain it. When there's a difference between taking a walk and walking by a tree and even looking at a tree, than witnessing, mutually witnessing. Even just, I mean, for me, because I mean, this, I'm someone who, per se, sends my prayers through the roots of the trees. I know this is my brethren. I know I can reach any place on the earth, and there's other ways. It's just my method. But to stop and give my consciousness, open myself up to a tree, as an example, it doesn't take long, and you can feel it immediately. Once, like anything else, once you break through the barrier. I think they spoke to me before I spoke to them. But again, like you were saying, it was 12 years ago. I was in the space of a total what would you call it? Deconstruction.
Mhm.
Total loss of everything. Nothing. So even though that sounds kind of rough on the human, at a soul level, I was wide open beyond surrender. My will is I want to merge my will with universal will. And then the trees were like, all right, welcome back. And then the whole
Well, I think
relationship started.
we live our life through so many material things. And I too, Todd, can relate to, being up that ladder, worked hard, did all these things, to not going down the ladder, literally being thrown off of it.
Yeah, that's me.
Lost everything,
Yeah.
marriage, all of it. Everything was gone. And then I learned through some real hard struggles and being at the end of that totem pole and poverty level and all these different things and how people treated you. And it was the most bizarre couple years, because I literally learned to bear witness even as other people were talking to me. It was like I was seeing things with a different energetic part of my body than just physically being in that position and being a victim of my circumstances.
Right.
I kept knowing that it was going to change. I can't say that it's drastically changed that much financially.
Uh-huh.
That too will come in its own way, but I'm
Right.
fully sustained. And I've just also learned that doesn't matter to me anymore. None of that
Yeah.
matters. The big house, the country clubs,
Right. Right.
all that stuff, none of that matters. I never felt comfortable in any of them anyway, if I was being truly honest about it. But bearing witness to everything that's around you. And then also when you're talking about the trees, it opens my heart so much, because you can feel what you're saying.
Mm.
And even if you could just sit there and know that their life force is the carbon dioxide you give them,
Mm-hmm.
and they give you back the
Mhm.
oxygen. And the oxygen, you see the birds and the butterflies and the little crickets and the grass and the deer and all those that live off oxygen. And you can just sit there and
Mhm.
just simply have this life force exchange, expecting nothing else but nature at its finest. You'll connect even on a deeper level, because you'll be surprised at how you get into that heart center real
Yeah.
fast
Yeah.
as that inner child that you are. And we all are under the hoods of being an adult, trying to pretend we're living a grown-up life.
Right. And now we're having to grow up.
Who the hell needs that?
The trees are amazing. I mean, I've had so many experiences with them. I used to have a lot of problems with my back, and so I remember stopping at a tree. The tree tells me, we're going to fix your back. And we went through some routine for like an hour, and that was a huge healing that occurred. And I can remember, because I used to live next door to a cemetery in the early days of Soulogy, and I would walk out there every night. There's trees in a bayou and spirits, and it was my laboratory. And I remember stopping at a tree that really was two trees in one, and it was a masculine and a feminine, and it started shape shifting, showing me without words the entire story from, I don't know, I would say, it was just a narrative. It was just the communication. It was much more than that. It was an energetic experience, but like, they were showing me the history of the human race kind of thing. But yeah, they're absolutely amazing. And then of course, that's just part of it. I've had encounters with, I had an incredible encounter with a huge owl in Sedona on it was either a super full moon or it was an eclipse. It was in 2021, right after the Soulogy Fest. It was amazing. I am a galactic being taking this form to speak to you at this momentous time. I had just gone through this incredible ceremony that was one of those where you die and are born at the same time. And it was, I mean, it's one thing, because I've had that too, I mean, I've had it alone. Morgan and I've had it, like apparitions coming in, aspects of us coming in, watching her shape shift. you know, and vice versa. But when it's an animal or the wind or a tree, right? You know what I mean? There's something about it that I can't, to me, if I have to choose, I would have to choose that. Like they were telling you, choose one of the two trees. But yeah, to me, it's because it's physical. And I always make the joke, or I have for years, that I think we're going to find out that, as you know, as far as dominion of the earth goes, I mean, this is a bit satirical, but we're at the low end of the totem pole here. The animals, the plants, the trees, the bugs, everybody's got the oneness thing going. And we're the, you know, we're the redheaded stepchild that's finally going to, I guess, grow up together.
Yeah, we can think of ourselves as, oh, I was once a tree, I was once a rock, I was once a crystal, I was once. You can think of all those things, and unless you've actually gone into your memory banks and it gets presented to you, you're not sure. But if we are all part of each other's DNA, then of course we are.
Yeah, of course.
We're part of that. I know when I was working on my site those couple years, I would sit on my back deck and the trees would go in slow motion, like they were mechanical. And then I remember hearing the story of, well, you know, everything, this is just a simulation. And I was like waiting for the skylights to come on, all these beings to start staring down, looking at me like whatever his name was in that movie. The Truman Show or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is interesting. But I realized they slowed down to show me their life force.
Right.
Because then I could see all kinds of different faces and beings. And now people strive to see these things on substances, and more power to you. If you can, that's great. I was shown, nope, you're going to have to sit still and get this out of the way and let us show you. And that's not an easy feat. I'm going to tell you that right now. It wasn't easy for me. And I still have to work on certain things. And I still sometimes get very frustrated when I see the beings working, and they're always working with animals. And I can sit down and I call it the Sky Show and I'm watching something. I'm like, what is that? I don't understand it. So now I just say, thanks for letting me watch the show. I didn't hear any voices, but at least I know that there's something beyond veils that's coming closer and closer and closer for me to identify in they shape shift. And I see it in people. I never really saw it in people unless I had a lot of wine. Back in the days when I used to, you know, love social drinking and things like that. 2017 is when I gave it up for inflammatory reasons, and spirit was like, it's time to let go of that, time to let go of that. But on the times where I'd be like drinking with people, and all of a sudden I look over and someone's face would fall off, and they would be something else. And I'd be like, just totally like witnessing it. And that can happen to you in your everyday life if you just start paying attention to the layer upon layer upon layer that we've hardened ourselves to not see, because we've been programmed to say we're not supposed to see that, or I'm hallucinating, I must have a brain tumor, something's wrong with me.
That's that slow motion thing that I've always kind of compared it to, like, you know, like when something happens, like the moment you start to fall off your bicycle, you know, and everything just goes real slow, right? And you're in that space, and that's what it's like to me. And you know, some of the things I've seen, especially in nature, for me anyway, it's not taking my eyes off of it. Like, in other words, if I look and I keep my stare fixed and I look for it where I sense it, you know, it always happens. And it could be, I've had things, a lot of things happen. I've had clouds open up, you know, and something drop down. I've had a red-tailed hawk, you know, fly in front of me, or a blue heron come sit next to me. So it doesn't always, you know, show up where maybe where I'm looking. But Yeah, there's just there's something to that. I like what you said too about something getting closer, the veil getting thinner or something's getting closer to me. Do you feel like that's happening? Or is it even relevant to consider something like that
Oh,
now? Having a
it's,
conversation with you. You
oh
feel like
no,
it's
it's most definitely happening. And you can think of it as the earth is rising. Look at that, the earth is rising. There's a combination between so many things happening. And that is the more open and the more fully conscious you are and really get to know yourself and get rid of all the stuff that isn't so important. You take off these weights of the programming and
Mhm.
things are without question in my sight. I'm seeing it so much closer. And especially again, and I go through phases where it can be like every month something's closer, but
Mhm.
I've definitely seen it speed up in the last few months
Yeah, there's no
without
doubt.
question.
Oh, there's no doubt. These last 90 days have just been,
Yes.
they've just been, I mean, I wouldn't even, pretend to know, but I feel there's just pretty much anybody who's been doing the work has had a huge leap in psychic abilities, sensitivities, skills and abilities, or memories coming in, code getting turned on these last 90 days. It's just been, and of course now we got the solstice coming up. So, and I'm in my own what would you call it, loop. We have these loops, we go through these places where we retrace our steps. And so 12 years ago, tomorrow, at 1:11 in the morning, that's when everything started for me. And then I walked the streets homeless for a couple of years, most of them 2 years. And a lot of the time was spent right here. So I end up in my daughter's apartment because she lives with her boyfriend. I just happened to come to town. I needed a place to stay, and I've been, took over her lease, and it's up into June. I'm 2 blocks away, 1 block away, and 2 houses over from my grandmother's house, where I spent, teenage years, and so on. So there's all this stuff going around, and my guidance is saying there's a reason that this all began 12 years ago. This is a different environment now. This is an environment where there's reciprocation, there's equal exchange, and so on and so on, or at least the accessibility to it. So to me, it feels like we're about to get into something really big. I keep saying I feel a pop. I feel a pop, and I'm not one of those. I'm just saying I feel a pop, and it may just be me, but I don't think it is. And I feel like it's here. Like it's
Yeah.
gonna be. Had a friend of mine on 2 or 3 days ago, that Alicia Brachet, and we hadn't done a show in a long time because we've been kind of in this transition. And she said, "Yeah, I had a dream a couple of nights ago, and you were in it." And she said, "You said it's going to be." What'd she say? She said, "What's the summer going to be like?" And I said, "Fire." I don't know what that means, but whatever it is, it'll be constructive. Yeah, it feels to me like. I mean, I look at someone like you and I say, okay, with the information that you've had way back then about what's happening now, how does that make you feel? Are you proud of us? Is it about time? Are you relieved? Or is it because of all the information, experience, and revelations, it's irrelevant?
Well, when you say that, I almost get teary-eyed because it's nice to see other people catching up.
Yeah.
And I've lived my life feeling like a freaking oddball, even though I may look like I fit into a group and no one would ever know if they didn't know me or know what goes on in my head or my sight or whatever. But it's nice to have everyone starting to catch up
Yeah.
for me on a personal level. And I look forward to meeting more and more and more people. And I say that with love and compassion because we are on we're getting catapulted. 2019, I knew something was coming. I didn't know
Right.
what. Spirit said in January 19th, 2019, no distraction, Sandy. None. I kept saying, what are you talking about? Stay focused. Stay focused. And when 2020 happened and all the phones were ringing and everyone's telling me this and fear of that, and I'm like, half those people I wound up going, can't take that call again.
Mhm.
Yeah, I had to, and it became me and the squirrel show, looking out
Yeah.
the window at the squirrel show, can't go anywhere, right? And then a lot of walks in nature. And then when I see it unfolding, I'm like, this doesn't faze me.
Right.
This is going to come and go.
Right.
This is an opportunity. I saw so many fall into the pitfalls of fear, and they still are.
Yeah.
They're coming out of it now, like, well, I knew that. And there's a lot of people that are coming out that have been placing false information, false light, false prophecies, false things to get their own egoic whatever. And
Yeah.
I'm seeing that that's going to all, people are going to be where they need to be. I never need to come on and go, that person is a freaking liar,
Right.
or blah, blah. I never have to predict anything. I just go, you know what? That's their journey.
Right.
That's not mine.
Yeah.
If someone was to ask me directly, I'd have to ask myself, am I even to answer this question? So you know what? That is why I've been behind the scenes for so long. And I don't have millions of followers and, a 2 years of book up and all that stuff. It's because I'm just kind of coasting along, waiting for other people to catch up. And I'm just looking forward to meeting more and more people as we go,
Yeah.
period. But it is opening, and we are about to see things that have already been presented on other levels. They're just going to present themselves on an earthly level. And it's not necessarily going to be in the ways people have anticipated it being. And you know what? If the whole financial world was to collapse, would you be okay? Yeah, you would. You would.
Mhm.
You would sustain, you would be sustained, and you will grow from it, right?
Yeah.
There's so many things that we just don't need to be concerned about.
That's what I say. Well, because, and that's what I was going to say when I was talking about now it's 12 years later, and it's to the day in a new energy. And I kind of look at it like the 10-year Mayan thing ended on the 21st December 2022. And I know for me and a lot of people I talked to this year, we're in a new place. How does this work, kind of thing? But I walk in these streets because I walk in the residential, but then I'll go on to the main street. This is the main drag in Houston, Texas. It runs one into the other, and this is kind of where it originates. So it's very urban-esque. And because I do that because that's where I was before, because I've been guided to do that. And the reason I was guided to do that was they, me, the you, me, we, and it wanted me to remember where I was in that state. Because I could look back at it and think, oh, that's when my journey started, 2 years on the streets. I was communing all the time. I was, but I was missing something. And what I was beginning to understand was that here was a man, 50 years old, who didn't have anything and had a big hole in his heart. And there was, the shadows and the traumas and all that stuff. That I was actually walking, when I was walking regardless of the shadow, as a soul, as a fearless, limitless, unlimited soul, as a God head in spirit, spirit flesh. And so what they were showing me was you were split, but you were still one. You still have this stuff going on over here, but you can always carry this with you. And I think part of the reason that has come through is because, as I learned in those days, take everything away if you have to. Get rid of it all, every belief, every possession. That's how you'll find your soul. And that's how you test your faith, right? And I feel like this pop kind of has the energy of rip the Band-Aid off. And it doesn't feel like it's just for me. And I have things going on that could easily, but it's a different Todd today. It's a different world today. I don't know. It feels like the same pattern to me as well. and not just from 12 years ago, but from last year, the year before, in terms of the pattern of the energy, even though it might look different or something's exacerbated or whatever. But yeah, I think it's good news for me energetically. I feel like it's good news collectively that at some level of awareness will be had. It's here. Now, what's it going to take for people to really witness it? I don't know. Is that going to come with it? I don't know. But I think it's going to be a very, very powerful second half of the year, for sure.
I would agree with you there too. And then I also was hearing when you were speaking is you have expanded your column of light and it has a stronger anchor because of the experiences you've gone through in the last 12 years. And they took you back through some of those steps of what you went through to where you are now. So a little back, a little forward, a little back to right here where you and I are talking. And you can't even put it on a growth chart because it's beyond that. And so that's how we know we're evolving in stepping into the authentic me, myself, and I of the God self that we are. And that just that energy, whatever demographics you are in, just anchoring that energy is power enough. But if you're going to anchor it, why not make it the best you can? Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, and I think
but everybody's got one foot out the door. They're supposed to be over here, supposed to be with this person. This is supposed to happen. I bought enough gold and silver. I bought some crypto. Oh, I have enough food. And it's like, how many people are having to re-eat all the food that they bought because it's about to expire? A lot. Everybody should have a little something, something. But you don't need to go overboard with all these people that are preaching it. That's why they won't let me get into that side of it. And I know that wherever I am, whether it's fully grounded in this physical flesh and bone and blood, or I'm in a conscious form, I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Right.
But the conscious form right now is housed and gets housed and embedded deeper and deeper every day that I completely stay in my space and not allow other things. And it's not hard because when you make those decisions, spirit just takes people off your radar. They take stuff off your toddling abilities. You know, once you've kind of gone over the lessons, right? You've done all the test runs. Now you're launching.
Right.
And it's like, you don't need any of that other stuff.
Yeah.
Some clothes on your back, and if you wear the same ones for a couple of days, they're clean. It's okay. You're gonna live.
Turn your underwear inside
you can
out.
get a shower. You find what little bit you need.
Yeah.
From the external world. Well, that's when the inner beauty really truly begins to blossom. You know, I could have looked at things like I looked at everything that I lost as things.
Right.
They were things or titles or something, or put me in a class of tax bracket, high tax brackets or society or whatever. But none of that defines who I am.
Right.
None of it. And it won't define you. And I don't mean you, Todd, but anyone who's listening either, if you just allow it to just present itself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I guess that's what I was trying to express too, because it having nothing. How can you have nothing? Absolutely nothing. And I'm not talking about me.
And have everything.
Yeah, and I'm talking about but I'm talking about really what we're coming to. And we've all been there, I'm sure, in our you're coming out of a dark night of the soul, whatever you want to call it. But just to even be shown through the experience itself, that's better than Jesus coming in the trees, or Merlin appearing, or an animal encounter. This is even better because I actually lived it, or you actually lived it, or whoever it is we're talking about actually lived it. We've already found that moment when we had nothing left. I remember back then the universe telling me sometimes you got to be put in a situation where you got nothing left to lose, so you can find yourself, because that's the whole point of this game, is as you talk about, is to find ourselves and go deeper. This has been sorry I kept you so long.
No, it's okay. I just want to make a point on something you just said.
Oh, yeah.
And Spirit was also telling me to say is we're so busy looking for the past to come forward to prove to us something, right? These ascended masters, were they, right? We don't really know all of it. The point is, can you be enough in yourself and be your own ascended master? That's really the key here.
Right.
Can you not attach yourself to other people's names and be in groups and call yourself this or that? Can you separate yourself from all of that and still be your own navigator through what's happening in this moment? Don't look for Yeshua, Yeshua, Jesus, or whatever to come back on a cloud or be in your face to teach here again, because I'm kind of told it's not going to happen. But hey, times could change and it could happen. So I don't know. Either way, it's how are you going to receive it if you're not the best that you can be in that moment? You're still looking for that savior. You're still playing in the victim swamp. You're still in that sand pit, that quicksand of someone's coming to save you. If you just reach out your hand high enough, be good enough, do this, do that, follow this teaching. Can you just write your own teachings and do what you know is right for you in the moment and emulate that? And just emulate that and just try it.
Sure. That's right. We're like the dog that's been chasing its tail the whole time.
Hey, listen, when I was married, my ex used to say the dog learned how to chase his tail by watching me.
There you go.
And I would be like, what?
How do people find you? Are you still doing sessions?
I
Remote?
do. Embodimentofthesoul.com.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and they can
Embodimentofthesoul.com.
also email directly because I don't like that link that's setting up my appointment. So it's info@embodimentofthesoul.com. But if they go there, they'll see my email. They can make an appointment.
Info@embodimentofthesoul.com.
Yeah, that's the email. But if they go to embodimentofthesoul.com, they'll see my email and they can email me and get a session if they feel it's something that resonates with them. I'm not huge on like promoting myself in that way because I know what comes to me and who comes to me are people that really want to open the window.
Yeah.
And want to get in there.
No, I picked that up from you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know, on the old platform, we had a rule. We didn't hardly even mention anything because people, you know, if anytime I would mention something, then I'd get 10 people in the message box the next day wanting to promote this or promote that.
Yeah.
But here, I think we try to, you know, organically just you know, get the word out. So I'm going to send you, I'm going to get some information for you for the write-up. So we're going to sign off on the stream. Thank you everybody for coming in. There's a lag of about 10 seconds. So we'll be back tonight. I can't remember what we're doing, but I know we got something going on. All right. Boom. Okay. Hang on a second. What do I need to do? Okay. I'm still recording. So I'm going to turn this off.